Welcome to Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show. This time we're taking a look at Ford's latest Bronco special edition, the Everglades.
We also have McLaren's staggering 765LT Spider.
Plus the 2022 Kia K5 takes on the Toyota Camry. That's all coming up, but first, the news.
Ineos has begun trialling production of its upcoming Grenadier at its Hambach plant in northeastern France, where it will share the production line with the Smart EQ 4.2. Ahead of the Grenadier's release later this year, Ineos is trialling the production of 130 prototypes to finalise the build process. The British brand has already taken 15,000 reservations for its new 4x4, which it sees as an alternative to the previous generation Land Rover Defender. Grenadier production was originally intended for South Wales, but following Brexit, the decision was taken to move operations to the continent.
In the last couple of years, Mercedes has been busy diversifying its range of EVs. From crossover SUVs to limousines, the Stuttgart brand is building itself quite the electric portfolio. And next to join the lineup is this, the EQE. As its name would suggest, the new model has been added as an electric equivalent to the E-Class. Placed under the range-topping EQS, the EQE is a more accessible way to access the German manufacturer's EV technology in a big, comfy saloon. Visually, the EQE is very similar to the larger EQS, just a few subtle hints distinguish the two. The lesser model has slightly more rounded features like the headlights and grille panel at the front. Other than that, the cars are almost identical. Hop inside and you'll think you've landed in the more expensive EQS. Mercedes has pretty much copied and pasted the set of large screens that adorn the bigger car's dashboard. Though the wheelbase loses 90mm from the EQS to the EQE, the new car is still longer than the E-Class. The bodywork has been designed to reduce wind noise and the seats have massaging functionality. With so many luxurious features and styling cues that hardly change, the comparative lack of rear legroom might be worth the cash saving. Sitting underneath the car is Mercedes' EVA2 platform, a modular chassis base upon which are built most of the brand's electric cars. The entry-level EQE 350 has a 292 horsepower single motor powering the rear axle. All-wheel drive versions will also be available, though only in AMG guise. The car also moves with rear-wheel steering as an optional extra, helping with manoeuvrability. Mercedes designers have gone to extreme efforts to make the EQE as aerodynamically efficient as possible. This, along with the 90 kilowatt battery, means the new car can reach a claimed WLTP range of 410 miles. Drawing from the Mercedes Formula E team's learnings, the EQE gets regenerative braking. When coasting, the car is able to generate additional energy by slowing the car's motor. Better yet, when using a 170 kilowatt fast charger, it can gain 155 miles of range in as little as 15 minutes.
However, this is fast becoming a hotly contested corner of the market. From the Tesla Model S to the Porsche Taycan, there are plenty of electric executive saloons to choose from. Perhaps the Merc's biggest competition, though, comes from Audi. This is the e-tron GT, a four-door saloon that shares its architecture with the Taycan. Prices start at a smidge over £82,000, and for that you get a 298-mile range and 2 electric motors, sending 469 brake horsepower to all 4 wheels. 0 to 62 miles per hour is dealt with in 4.1 seconds with a top speed of 152. From a styling perspective, the Taycan underpinnings are clear. The Ingolstadt designers have done a good job of making it look like an Audi, but the Porsche's footprint remains. In fact, the e-tron GT shares 40% of its parts with the Taycan. The e-tron, though, is set up a little differently. Where the Porsche is tuned predominantly for performance and driving pleasure, the Audi is softer and more comfortable for those who want a big, comfy wafter that, every now and again, can adjust the positions of your internal organs when you put your foot down. The cabin is as beautifully trimmed as you'd expect from an 80 grand Audi. It isn't quite as ultra-modern as the exterior, but it isn't at all disappointing. Naturally, it gets some big screens with a virtual cockpit display in front of the driver and a 10-inch infotainment screen in the middle of the dash. There's no third screen for the climate control and aircon, instead just some good old-fashioned, easy-to-use buttons.
There are AMG versions of the Mercedes EQE on the way, but Audi already offers an RS version of the GT with almost 600 brake horsepower. Whether the EQE catches on, though, remains to be seen. It goes on sale this summer with prices likely to start around £70,000.
With the Optima now consigned to the pages of saloon car history, Kia has a new mid-size saloon for the North American market to eke out the last sales in the sector before SUVs complete their takeover. Called the K5, it's modern, filled to the brim with tech, and let's be honest here, really quite cool. In a class dominated by Toyota Camrys and Nissan Altimas, the 2022 K5 really does look a lot more appealing with its flicked daytime running lights and low, menacing front end. And the good looks continue at the back too, where you'll find a full-width rear light inspired by the Stinger but bolder and some smart chrome trim. Step inside and the smart interior more than lives up to the car's good looks. It's laid out simply, but it remains a very classy cabin with plenty of wood trim and leather options. It gets a leather-wrapped steering wheel as well and a big 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster with different themes to choose from. On the infotainment front, as standard, you get an 8-inch touchscreen, with higher spec cars getting a bigger 10.25-inch unit instead. From launch, there was just one engine on offer, a 1.6-litre petrol putting out 180 horsepower. Now, though, Kia has expanded the range with a new 290 horsepower 2.5. These top-spec GT models also get all-wheel drive, meaning it should be a match for many driver-focused rivals.
Speaking of which, this is the car the K5 really needs to beat. The Toyota Camry, one of America's best-selling cars and by the most popular in this class. The Camry is a well-established car with some very loyal buyers. It may not be the most exciting car to look at, but its blend of practicality, equipment and durability make it a tough competitor for Kia's new kid on the block. The Camry offers a more diverse range of powertrain options, available with either a frugal but gutless 4-cylinder, a much better hybrid system, or a torquey V6. Inside, the Toyota doesn't feel quite as upmarket as the Kia. Of course, it is well made. This is a Toyota after all, but you'll need to stump up for the higher trim levels to get the same level of luxury. There is plenty of room throughout, and luggage space has been greatly improved over the old one thanks to the relocation of the hybrid model's batteries from the boot floor to underneath the rear seats.
As good as the Toyota is, though, it's the Kia that wins this duel. It may not be as diverse with just 2 powertrain options, but it looks exciting inside and out, and it oozes quality and class. It's more desirable than the Camry, and we hope it'll convince buyers to stick with saloons for a little while longer.
After the break, McLaren's convertible track day supercar and the new Ford Bronco Everglades. Coming up, McLaren's latest convertible track toy. But first...
With Ford Broncos now starting to become an increasingly common sight on the roads of North America, Ford has begun to release some special editions. So far, we've seen the outrageous performance-focused Bronco Raptor, a 400 horsepower dune buggy with a roof and enough suspension to take on the Baja. This time, however, things are a little slower paced with this, the Bronco Everglades. Exclusively available to those who are already on the infamously long Bronco waiting list, the Everglades, as its name suggests, takes its inspiration from the grassy wetlands of Florida. And while it looks good driving through marshes and winching airboats, it's been designed to be comfortable just about anywhere. It builds on the existing Sasquatch package available on standard Broncos, which includes 35-inch tyres with 17-inch beadlock alloy wheels, front and rear locking diffs, and some meaty Bilstein suspension. The Everglades adds to this already impressive kit list with even more off-road goodies. Perhaps the most obvious addition is the enormous winch. It's a worn Xeon 10S that's capable of winching up to 4.5 tons, easily enough to drag yourself out if you get stuck. Happily though, that scenario seems unlikely. As well as the big tyres and lifted suspension, the Everglades also comes with a snazzy snorkel that lets the engine breathe in harsh conditions. It can be adjusted to suit the type of environment you're driving through, be that deep water or a dusty desert plain. To help the Everglades edition stand out from regular Broncos, it gets some unique stylish tweaks. The grille is painted grey with black lettering, and it also comes as standard with rock rails, bash plates and a safari bar that are functional as well as stylish. It also gets some bespoke squared-off wheel arches and some tasteful Everglades topography graphics on the front wings. It's available in a variety of special colours as well, with rugged names like Eruption Green, Area 51, Cactus Grey and Desert Sand as shown here. Inside, it's pretty much business as usual with hose-down rubber floor mats, marine-grade vinyl seats and the enormous 12-inch Sync 4 infotainment system. The only Everglades exclusive differences are some green accents on the grab handles, air vents and stitching. Under the bonnet, it gets the regular 2.3-litre EcoBoost 4-cylinder with a respectable 300 horsepower hooked up to a 10-speed autobox. It is a boxy, rugged, all-American 4x4 then, but it isn't the only one.
The current Jeep Wrangler has been around for a while now, but it's no less impressive than it was when it debuted in 2018. Like the Bronco, you can take off various body panels, and there are numerous trim levels to choose from. Perhaps the most exciting version, though, is this, the Rubicon 392. From the outside, it looks like any other high-spec Wrangler, but lurking under the bonnet is a 6.4-litre Hemi V8. With 450 horsepower on tap, the 392 can get from 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds. That's fast by any standards. In fact, it's Mercedes G63 territory. Jeep even says the 392 will do the quarter mile in just 13 seconds. But don't think that all this extra poke means the 392 is shying away from its off-roading roots. Far from it. In fact, it's even more trail-ready than the standard car. The ride height has been increased by 51mm, and there's a special air induction system to improve its wading capabilities. There are also some massive knobbly tyres as standard, as well as the Wrangler's usual array of off-roading driving modes.
So, whatever your needs might be, from the dependable ability of the Ford Bronco Everglades to the muscle car soundtrack of the Jeep, it seems that Defenders and G-Wagons are not necessarily the obvious choices anymore.
Since the McLaren's started building road cars again in 2010, it's consistently improved upon the same recipe of carbon monocoque and turbocharged V8. And perhaps our favourite Woking creation to date is this, the 720S. Arguably the ultimate production supercar, the 710 brake horsepower rocket ship is Britain's answer to the Italian exotica from Ferrari and Lamborghini. It'll hit 62 miles per hour in 2.8 seconds and top out at 212. Even in convertible spider form, but it isn't a bare-bones racer. The cabin is beautifully trimmed with all the modern conveniences of a regular saloon car. But if all that wind-in-your-hair performance isn't enough, and you can do without the leather seats and mod cons, McLaren has just the car, the 765LT Spider. A harder, lighter, more aggressive version of the 720S, the 765 continues McLaren's LT name. LTs, or longtails, traditionally have some extra length added to the rear end to improve airflow. This time, however, the length has been added at the front with a new carbon fibre splitter. To reduce weight, the 765 is covered in amazing racing-inspired details. At the back, there's a new quad-tip titanium exhaust, 40% lighter than the standard system, while the transmission, which you can see if you peer through the rear bumper, has also been on a diet. For even more weight saving, the windows are made from thinner glass, while the new 10-spoke alloy wheels, fitted with titanium wheel nuts and specially developed Pirelli tyres, save another 22 kilos. All the body panels are now carbon fibre, saving another 14 kilograms. And for those who really want the full supercar unplugged experience, you can even opt to have it without air conditioning or a radio to save a few more precious kilograms. The result of this fasting is an 80 kilo saving over the standard car, bringing the total curb weight to a smidge under 1.4 tonnes. It's a bit heavier than the hardtop, but not by much.
However, the 765 hasn't just been dieting, it has more muscle too. The twin-turbo 4-litre V8 has been pumped up to 755 bhp with 590 foot-pounds of torque. The 0 to 62 mph time remains unchanged, but it can now hit 124 in just 7.2 seconds, exactly the same as the coupe version. This really is the most hardcore convertible money can buy. To help keep this immense power down, the LT has received some heavily reworked aero components. There's the aforementioned front splitter, redesigned front bumper, a new front floor, more aggressive side skirts, a new rear diffuser, and a bigger active rear wing, all combining to create 25% more downforce over the regular 720. The chassis has already been tweaked with a wider track and stiffer suspension to deliver optimum feedback through your posterior. The ride height has been dropped ever so slightly with specially calibrated springs and dampers. Lastly, the 765 has also received a brake upgrade with carbon ceramic discs taken from the Senna hypercar, which can get it from 124 miles per hour to rest in just 110 meters, rearranging your internal organs in the process. Inside the cabin, you find yet more weight-saving measures with carbon bucket seats from the Senna and a distinct lack of luxuries. In fact, the whole car makes the 720S, a true swivel-eyed lunatic of a car, seem almost pedestrian.
Unlike the 720S, the 765 is a limited edition, with 765 being built. Of course, it isn't exactly cheap, but if you want the ultimate top-down experience, this must surely be it.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we take a look at an all-new Alfa Romeo Tonale.